Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Community Partnerships in Action stream for the National Landcare Conference 2021. I'm Alexi, and I'm coming to you from Gadigal country of the Erie Nation. Thank you all for joining us today. And before we get into our first presentation, I'm just going to have a quick message from the sponsor of this stream, Saving Our Species. Thank you so much for joining us, Tanya Reid.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone's enjoying the conference. I heard that yesterday went really well. I'm sure today will also go really well. And to those in lockdown, I'm in day one of lockdown, so I'm with you. Hang in there. Let's talk about some really positive community partnerships in action to brighten our day. For those who don't know, the program Saving Our Species is the New South Wales Government flagship conservation framework. We work on many projects with landcare groups across New South Wales. In fact, 25 over 16 active projects. So landcare groups are an incredibly important part of the program, and that's why we're sponsoring this conference today. Enjoy the session.
Thanks so much for that, Tanya. And thank you so much to Saving Our Species for sponsoring this stream. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll now begin with our first presentation of the day, which will be brought to you by Karen O'Keefe and Catherine Jenkins from Corangamite Catchment Management Authority. And they'll be giving you a presentation on empowering rural women. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. All right, so my name's Karen O'Keefe, and I'm the Regional Agricultural Landcare Facilitator with the Corangamite CMA. So today, Kath Jenkins and I are going to provide a bit of an overview of the Corangamite Rural Womens Network. We're going to talk about our journey, why and how this came about, and we're going to share some of our learnings and experiences on empowering rural women. So I was really fortunate to grow up on a farm, and I was the nerdy little farm kid who was obsessed with birds and also then naturally loved plants, and then went on to study environmental science at uni. In 2005, I came into my first landcare coordinator role, and I was pretty excited about that. I was ready to help farmers fix up their farms, pest, plant, animal control, re-veg, waterways, all that sort of stuff. And then I soon learnt that landcare, whilst yes, it's about getting stuff done, it's also just as much around community and people, because people make decisions and manage the land. So in 2013, fast forward a little bit, I was really fortunate to participate in the Australian Rural Leadership Program, and through that did some unconscious bias training. And I kind of feel like my lens on the world changed a little bit from that, and I was just looking for diversity, and then came into my current role with CMA, and was looking for diversity and going to a lot of agriculture events, and I was like, oh, where's the women? I know that women are involved in farms, farm businesses, and I was like, right, there's an opportunity here. And then this kind of led to the formation of the Corangamite Rural Womens Network.
Good stuff, Karen. Great to be here presenting with you today. And hello, everybody. I'm Kath Jenkins. I'm a farmer from South Corangamite in southwest Victoria, on my family farm here with my husband and our 4 children. We moved here from Melbourne about 17 years ago and ran the farm as a dairy farm. And in the past couple of years, we've converted our farm to produce free-range eggs and to also continue running some cattle. And since we've first started out farming, I've always loved getting involved with farm discussion groups, field days, and events like that, and really trying to increase my knowledge of agriculture and land management. But I've also really liked being part of community groups and especially connecting with other rural women. So in 2015, I became a member or a board member of the Corangamite Catchment Management Authority, and that was how I got to know Karen. And through Karen, I started finding out more about the Corangamite Rural Womens Network. So since then, I've been involved in attending events, which I've loved, but I've also enjoyed helping plan, organise and run some of the network events as well.
So before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're all meeting on today and acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. I'm presenting from Wadawurrung country today, and the Corangamite Rural Women's Network also encompasses Eastern Maar country as well, which Kath is on today. So just a little bit about the Corangamite region. So we are located in sunny, or not so sunny today, southwest Victoria. We encompass Ballarat, Geelong, Colac, the Great Ocean Road. We've got the Otway Ranges. It's quite a diverse landscape, high rainfall zone. We've got a range of ag industries, cropping, grazing, dairy, viticulture, and everything in between. We have lots of special threatened species and threatened ecological vegetation communities, and we're fortunate to also have the beautiful 12 apostles. With regards to demographics, we are seeing succession planning happening on farms. We're seeing next generation farmers coming through now. We also have increasing peri-urban landholders, and we have a lot of newcomers to the region as well. So it's a fantastic opportunity to engage with new people in landcare.
And just in terms of providing a little bit of context, just wanted to have a quick chat about the existing women's networks and groups that are already out there. So nationally, we've got the Australian Women in Agriculture group. Many people would know about the Country Women's Association, the CWA, so a big shout out to them. And also in Victoria, there's the Victorian Rural Womens Network. We've got a photograph of one of the first meetings that they held in the Victorian Parliament House. And if you get your magnifying glass out, you will see Karen and I in that photo there somewhere. But also a shout out to those commodity groups that have got women's groups involved with them, such as the legendary Women's Network, part of the dairy industry. And we also know there's many formal and informal networks out there as well, which is great. So why empower rural women? Great question. Got a few stats up here on the slide. But did you know that until 1994, Australian women could not legally claim to be farmers? Pretty shocking, yeah. The law defined us as domestics, helpmates, and farmers' wives. And in my 17 years as being a farmer, I've been called a farmer's wife many times. So agricultural commodity councils only have 9% women, rural representative bodies 13% women, publicly listed ag companies, ASX listed, they've got 7% women. One of the great numbers we are seeing coming through is that those studying ag science, 55% of those are women, which is great. Only 2.3% of CEOs in Australian agribusiness are female, compared with an average of 17% across other sectors. So not only have we got a big challenge here with equality in general, but rural industries is still a bit behind. And as Karen talked about unconscious bias, we know this is real. We all have it. So part of trying to increase diversity, reducing that unconscious bias, is about increasing productivity and outcomes for all.
So when we talk about empowering rural women, this is one of the things that we use, which is the IAP2 Spectrum around community engagement. This is quite a well-known tool. So if you're interested in finding out detail around this, just give it a little Google. So basically, it kind of takes us through informing through to empowering. And as the Rural Women's Network, we decided that we would really want to focus on empowering rural women. So my interpretation of this is when we inform, if we're going to run a session, I might organise a speaker, or I might organise the time, the date, the venue, and someone comes along and tells everybody heaps of information and people learn stuff and then they go home. With empowering, we're looking at having the participants in that design, delivery process. They are, it's their ideas, they suggest things, the shared responsibility, and we do things together. It builds community ownership. It takes time and it does take work. However, this is what we aim to achieve through the Rural Women's Network. And one of the really cool things about this, like as a facilitator, is when we've got a big event, I'm generally not the only one stressing and not sleeping the night before, because we've got women who have suggested the speaker and they've taken a lead in contacting that person and making sure they're all sorted. Someone else has organised the catering and so on and so forth. So yeah, as a facilitator, I love using this model.
And Karen, I think today is a great example of that. It's not just you losing sleep last night, you being the sole presenter.
We both didn't sleep.
I'm here as well. We both lost a little bit of sleep, but yeah, great example of us working together right through this to make it happen and be with you today.
Good point. Thanks, Gail. So here we go. So how did we start? So the first step was recognising that there was an opportunity to increase women's participation. So that's that whole unconscious bias. Yes, there's an opportunity here to increase diversity. The second thing was made a few phone calls and went, who are some of those key women in the region who I know are movers and shakers? You know, who's been involved with Australian women ag groups that have been around a long time? So I spoke to some key people. We agreed to come together for a bit of a planning workshop in 2014. And we identified opportunities, challenges, you know, how do we move forward in this space? Is there something here? Do we want to create something in Corangamite? And the consensus was yes. So we established an informal Corangamite Rural Womens Network working group, and that's where we started. We've since got a social media page and all sorts of things have come out of that. So the other really important thing that we did was we clearly identified as a group, we identified our vision, of which you can see there, which is around embracing women from different backgrounds, strengthening networks, and it's all tied back to resilience. And we clearly identified our values. So what this means is when we go into get it done mode, which, you know, I might be guilty of doing that every now and again because I'm a landcare facilitator, we can revisit our values, and we do that every couple of years as a group, and it just keeps us on track.
Yeah, it's great, Karen. And like I said before, I wasn't involved at the start of this program, but I've been involved since and have had the opportunity to have some input into the checking out the vision and the values. Is that still where we want to be and still where we want to head, which has been great.
Yeah, one of the things that came up in the network was around cross-industry information sharing. So when we've got, you know, we often hang around with those that are similar to us. So we've had feedback from women in the dairy industry who just absolutely love going and visiting like a cropping farm and viticulture and just mixing and mingling in that way. So how we engage. So as I mentioned before, we have a volunteer working group with clear visions and values. Now, the point I want to make here is that the network is informal. And so we don't have a formal governance structure. There's no president, there's no treasurer. And what we've found is there's women are, you know, people in general, especially in rural communities, they're already on the CFA, they're on the school council, they're already on the local planning club committee. You know, people are so already well committed. So this is an informal network. It's facilitated by the Regional Agricultural Landcare Facilitator, which is obviously my role. We plan and design and deliver activities in partnership with others. So whilst it can be annoying sometimes we don't have our own bank account, when we host an event, if it's in the Ballerine Landcare Group area, then we work with Ballerine Landcare, and if they do have some funding, then it sort of gets sorted out through there or through the CMA. Sometimes we work with Southern Farming Systems, and those groups are all incorporated and can handle that. Another really important factor is participant feedback is really key for us. So we track demographics, skills, knowledge, confidence, and we collect things on practice change and future topics. And so we get the feedback and we use that, we provide that feedback back to the participants as well, so they can see what's guiding us.
So what have we actually been doing in terms of we're meeting, we're sharing, we're learning, we're planning, but what are some of the deliverables? So I've got some on the slide here. You can see some photographs of some of the different activities that we've held, which will give you a bit of an idea of what we do. But really it's about ensuring that we're connecting with Corangamite rural women, delivering the things that they want and ensuring that they can share, learn and inspire. So as Karen mentioned, the group formed in 2014, and the first event that the network held was a wetland walk, which was in 2015. And since then, there's been a range of activities and events, including training workshops, farm walks, sometimes on each other's properties, bus trips, networking lunches, and online events and training. We've visited goat dairies, wetlands. We've talked about farm succession, permaculture, cultural awareness. There's even been a basket weaving workshop with traditional owners, and then more farm-based activities around pasture and livestock management, integrated pest management. We've also had a workshop on building resilience, which was something that came out of the St Pat's Day fires that were held here in Southwest Victoria a few years ago. But an example of a highly successful event that we did put together was the Rural Women's Forum, which we held at Barwon Park, the historic mansion in Winchelsea, in March 2018. We had over 120 local women attend. We had 15 local speakers and traditional owners. We had an amazing welcome to country and smoking ceremony right in front of the mansion at the start of the day, which was really special. This event was all planned and run by a volunteer working group. We started with a zero budget, and the event was run on a shoestring. But we managed to show that great ideas, great people working together, some great community support, and some generous financial support from some organisations, we were able to run a very sophisticated event that allowed women to connect, share, learn, and inspire.
So how do we measure success? So we touched on this before, that collecting participant feedback is really vital for us. And there's just sorry to be the person that puts a graph in there in the presentation, but we just put this in there as a bit of a visual example of people self-rate their skills, knowledge and confidence before the event and then after the event. So you'll see the grey one is where people have rated themselves before, and then they have increased their skills, knowledge and confidence following the event. And one of the things in particular that I'm really proud of is the Corangamite Rural Womens Network supported the first Wind on Farms program, which was designed by Southern Farming Systems. And that has now been replicated outside of the Corangamite region. So it's now delivered in Hopkins CMA, in Gippsland, on Kangaroo Island, in southeast South Australia. And Lisa from Bass Coast Landcare has just kicked off a new program over there. So it's really exciting to see things that we've trialled here be replicated in other areas across Australia with Southern Farming Systems. So how does this relate to Landcare? So what we've found is we have such a broad range of topics. Sometimes it seems a little bit random, but because the network is based on the key concept and principles of Landcare, we find that it is a really good way for people to meet each other. So new participants, it might be the first time for them to connect with someone in Landcare or someone from the CMA or Agriculture Victoria. So we find there is an opportunity to gain new Landcare members out of this. And sometimes people are connecting with others for the first time, like rural financial counsellors and people like that. So that's how we've been able to bring new people into the Landcare fold. And one of the things we've done successful is invite your neighbour or your friend or your mum. So come to an event and bring someone who wouldn't normally come along.
And Karen, I think too, sometimes it's great, we'll turn up to an event, thinking about something I went to once, which was at a sheep property. And we went along there to have a chat with this amazing farm manager, this lady that's been running this property for years. And then as we're walking around the farm, we were talking about all the great things they've done in terms of natural resource management. So we were able to cover off on those two sides of things, which was fantastic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And when we've got other CMA staff members come along, then we're connecting people up with, waterways programs and remnant vegetation protection programs and all those types of things, as well as Landcare.
That's great. So what are the key findings for success that we can pass on to you? certainly we've got some four important points here, which we've covered off already. But just in summary, we think it's really important to make sure you have a clearly defined purpose and values that you can go back and check on and revisit if you need to. But these need to be developed and owned by participants and be relevant for the people that are involved at the time. It's important to take a participatory approach in terms of planning activities and delivery. And this also includes working with female speakers. It might be people that haven't got much experience speaking before, but that can be a great learning exercise for them, educational activities and site visits. And as Karen mentioned before, the activities that we run are based on participant feedback, and also they are tailored for different demographics and different emerging issues. So it's important also, we think, to be, the fourth thing is to keep an open mind, remain flexible and calm, and most importantly, to have fun. Karen and I have got smiles on our faces now, as have these two ladies here working with these milking goats, which was a fantastic fun day out. So, Karen, what do you think? Bit of a call to action here?
Yes.
I think so.
We've got this classic quote here, which, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I will learn. Call to act. Oh, sorry, you go.
Yeah. Oh, so call to action. We'd love you all to think about what opportunities there are for you to empower women in your area, in your region. So have a think about who you might talk to. Write down 2 to 3 influential women that you know, maybe flick them a text, send them a message, have a chat to them and talk to them about what their needs are and what opportunities are there for you to empower rural women in your region. Good job, Karen. We did it. We got there. That's it.
Well done. Thanks. Still alive.
Yeah, we made it.
Thank you both so much for that presentation. That was fantastic. Really, really appreciate what you're doing. It's so important to ensure that we empower women in these rural areas and get them involved in the type of projects that you have just discussed. Now, we have a lot of amazing positive support coming through to you via the chat, but less questions. So I do encourage people to please ask questions. If you do want to know something about this program, please ask now. I have a question for you in the interim, which is where do you see this headed in the future and what are your future ambitions?
Good question. Karen, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, it is a very good question. Well, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we set up when we formed this network was that it wasn't just purely dependent on funding. So our plan is that by including people in the planning and delivery process, that hopefully there is longevity there because local people are leading it. We've obviously got a facilitated process to do that. So hopefully it continues to grow and tick over. And the fact that it's not formal, it just kind of, things come up and we roll with it. So it's like we're planned and organised, but we're kind of really flexible and just go with the flow as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Hopefully it goes where rural women in Corangamite want it to go.
Fantastic. Now, we've had a question come through from Jeff, and Jeff would like to know, how would you progress the role of women in agriculture more effectively?
Good question. Well, I mean, what's the topic? What was the heading of our thing? Empowering rural women. Like, I like to think we're providing an opportunity for women on farms, whether they're in a hands-on role or maybe they're not in a hands-on role and they want to be in more of a hands-on role. We provide a really great space for women involved in all different levels to come along and share ideas and learn from each other. So I'd like to think that from a farming, a sort of hands-on practical agriculture point of view, we can do that. But then I think from that, that it provides a good space for people to network, to learn, you know, and potentially take on some, whether it's community leadership roles or whether it's actually a role within the network, helping organise activities, and maybe that can give them some new skills. Like we all went to Melbourne that day, Karen, for the Victorian Rural Womens Network. That was a great way. You know, you meet other people, someone might tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, do you want to come on this working group with us, or we need your input into here, and who knows, you know, where that leads.
Yeah, look, I've got a couple of quick points on this. So some things that we can all do is provide feedback, credit when credit's due, acknowledge people when they do a great job, thank people. Just raising confidence is such a big thing, male and female, for everyone. When you see something good, please let that person know, because it goes a long way. The other thing is suggest women speakers at events. Get on planning committees, look at the topics and find key people. And the other thing is there's lots of opportunities out there. So tap people on the shoulder. There's scholarships, there's training opportunities, there's awards. And I certainly personally have benefited from that. And I wouldn't have put my name forward to do things if I wasn't supported by other people to do so. And so please, do that. That would be, really great.
Excellent. Well, we're about out of time. Thank you so much, the both of you, for a fantastic presentation. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alexi.
All right, everyone, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. Join us back in the Community Partnerships in Action stream for the next, and albeit a biased opinion, best speaker, myself, to give you a presentation on the Landcare platform. See you then.